but I've been arrested myself over a dozen times, from anything from misdemeanor shoplifting and disturbing the peace to breaking and entering into cars at night, discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a dwelling, illegal possession of high-capacity discharge ammunition, blah, 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 blah. I got a 4-page query with a bunch of felonies. Most of them have been quaffed. I pled out and kind of wrote out the probation, thankfully. I racked up 3 DUIs in my tenure as an animal, ignorant young person. And I almost died a few times, quite frankly. I mean, shooting heroin is super dangerous, and I did that for almost a decade. And I'm including methadone for 2 years, Suboxone for 3 years, 9 detoxes, rehabs, incarcerated at the age of 25 for my second DUI and a firearm charge. And quite frankly, I just never thought I was going to get out of it. You know, I didn't know people that got out of it. People, you know, that I knew either continued to get high, went to jail, or died. You know, I didn't know anyone that was as bad as me that went somewhere and came back well or different. It just didn't seem like it was in the cards, you know. So I got to a real broken, desperate place, around 30 years old, 29 years old. It was like, how can I just not die, not catch new cases, and not steal from my mother? The idea of getting well wasn't even an option. You know what I'm saying? So I like doing this training. I thank Jackie and NAMI and all the people that put this together allow me to be here, because to me this is like a living amends for me, because I tortured the people of my community. You know, I was not nice to law enforcement. I was not nice to first responders and EMTs that came to save my life, because I was so sick, right? My brain had been hijacked by drugs. There's no thinking rationally. When a person overdoses, my personal experience, it was my last $40. I overdosed, I died. I come to with you guys all around me with Narcan rapidly pushing the opiates out of my system, putting me into precipitated withdrawal. I'm not grateful you saved my life. I'm pissed that I just lost my last $40. That's kind of what happens. You wake up, what the hell's going on? First thing is oh my God, what do I got on me? I'm gonna get arrested. Second thought is oh my God, I'm not high anymore. Third thought's I don't got money to get high. I'm mad, I'm angry, you know? And that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a sick, rabid dog that their brain is completely hijacked, and all they think about all day, every day is how do I get more money to not be sick? How do I get more money to not be sick? It's not even about getting high and having fun anymore. It's you're so physically dependent on a substance that every day, all day is an obsession to not be sick. And I've overdosed multiple times, but 2 times, mouth to mouth, brought back with Narcan, both times brought to the hospital, both times kind of come to, pull the stickies off me, and immediately leave the hospital AMA to go get high again. And it's normal people are why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Why would you do that? It makes no sense to rational people. And this presentation, my sole purpose in it is to hopefully help you understand that why. Because 1, super sick, difficult population to deal with. So if you can understand the animal that you're dealing with, right? If you understand what's driving this addiction, hopefully it's just one less thing that you take personal that tires you out because your job's already hard enough. You guys are dealing with traumatic situations every day. I just walked in, you're talking about kids with guns and this and that. No one's doing anything about it. The system's broken. No one gives a shit. Even for the people that care, there's no resources for adolescents. You guys are in a tough place. So before I even go any further, I want to say thank you all for your service. Thank you for what you do. It's often a very underappreciated service. And I know for a fact first responders saved my life. You know, if someone didn't show up and bring me back to life, I wouldn't be here to do this presentation right now. I don't know, it's surreal just talking about it. I've done this so many times and I talk about this a lot. And it's still surreal to sit in front of you guys and think, 12 years ago, I was a criminal drug addict desperately trying to avoid all of you. And now I'm the guest speaker. It's kind of crazy, you know? It's trippy. But my sobriety date, I've been in recovery since July 2nd, 2010, right? And I only say that to say, I started off by telling you I was a criminal, heroin addict, child delinquent. I got arrested my first time at 16 years old for shoplifting, then at 17 years old for disturbing the peace. I was this hopeless case that walked into the court and they're oh my God, not Rosario again. They were so sick of me. No one in my life had any hope for me. But when I reached this breaking point and I accepted help and I took some action, like something changed. I started to heal, I started to get well, I found recovery, and now like I'm a decent human, I'm a citizen. I've gone back to school and got my associate's degree and my bachelor's degree, and now I'm currently working on a master's degree. I'm in an MBA in healthcare program. I have an 800 credit score. I have 2 beautiful daughters, right? I pay taxes, I'm honest, I don't steal, I don't commit crimes. And it's amazing, guess what? Cops are my friends now, no longer the enemy. Come to find out, like if you don't commit crime, they kind of leave you alone. It's like, it was profound, right? It was profound. And I only say that not to brag on myself, but to say on the day-to-day, you're gonna see people that are annoying and those high utilization users and those repeat offenders, and like, if that's all you see, you're gonna just assume that this is it. This is as good as it gets. And I hope that if nothing else out of today, you say, well, I met at least one guy that shot heroin, committed crimes, and turned his life around. And that maybe that you can think about the next person you meet could be the person. You know, you never know. Alcohol, I put this on here because a lot of talks I do, people totally minimize alcohol and marijuana because it's legal or because it's socially acceptable. And the truth is, alcohol is a drug, and alcohol and alcohol-related illnesses, accidents, diseases kill more people every year than any other drug. So we think fentanyl is the sensational thing because a 26-year-old girl from, Harwich died, which is awful and tragic, but every single year people are dying slow deaths in hospitals from alcohol-related illnesses and diseases, and people minimize that. Especially when I talk to young people and parents, like, oh, my kid's only smoking weed, my kid's only drinking. Yeah, no kidding. I was only smoking weed and only drinking for a long time too. But like, the younger these people start, the more likely they are to completely spin out of control. And even if they don't, alcohol will get you. The detox, how many people there on average are like the 40 to 60-year-old? High functioning, family people, good careers, put their kids through college. Drinking, moderate drinking, trouble drinking, heavy drinking, alcoholic drinking, still functioning for years and years and years, and the body slowly starts to die. And the body slowly starts to, decompensate, and then they finally need help. But alcohol is a killer, so we just don't want to sleep on that. Law enforcement and first responders have really joined forces with community people to kind of buy into this idea, like, how can we help collaboratively, right? Because science and studies have shown it is in fact a brain disease. Back in the day, I don't know where you guys are at with it, everybody has their own experience. If you had an alcoholic, drug addict family member, sometimes you have a very skewed, traumatized view of what addiction looks like because it's all you know. But science showed like this is not a matter of willpower or education or choice. I made choices. I made all the choices. I'm not a victim of my disease, but what happened over a period of time was the drug use hijacked my brain. The drug use starts with really this dopamine thing, right? So the limbic system is a part of the brain that releases dopamine. Dopamine makes us feel good. Dopamine is a primal thing that takes place in the brain to reinforce certain behavior, right? So when you eat, sleep, laugh, exercise, have sex, things that like humans need to do to survive as a species, the brain releases a little dopamine. It says, oh, that feels good, we gotta do that again. Oh, that feels good, we gotta do that again. You get it? It's a reinforcement chemical. Bad news, marijuana, alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, any drug you can name releases 5,000 times more dopamine than sex, eating, laughing, or exercise. So in some people, not all people, what that does is say, we gotta do that again. We gotta do that again. Some of you are lucky. Some of you went to the dentist, had tooth work, got a Vicodin, and made you nauseous, and you never wanted to do it again. What a blessing. The people that have that reaction to substances. People like me often get their first alcohol, joint, or Vicodin, and it's like, where has this been all my life? Right? Like, I can take a breath, the shoulders relax. Not everyone has the same reaction to drugs and alcohol. It was like the best thing that ever happened to me when I started to experience drugs and alcohol, and it finally made me feel like normal and okay, and my brain said, oh yeah, we gotta do that again. The other part of the brain, appetite, can't eat. Sleep all day, can't sleep. Like this emotional and mental and spiritual roller coaster of ups and downs. That's just normal post-acute withdrawal syndrome. On the same token, bipolar, which is an actual mental illness and a diagnosis, looks very similar, right? And there's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, so you have bigger ups and bigger downs, but there's a lot of this. So you need to help someone and treat someone's symptoms without necessarily sticking them with a label, to give them a period of time to wash out what's true mental illness and what's just normal post-acute withdrawal. It's not easy. It takes a good mental health person and a good addiction person to work collaboratively, or a good mental health addiction person who's cross-trained to really work with a person to try to see through what's what. I know for myself, and I know people are just trying to help me, but like one time I was in treatment and they're like, oh, you're bipolar, here's Prozac lithium Seroquel boost visceral. And I'm like, oh, great, I have a chemical imbalance, you gave me medication to balance my chemicals. I did no treatment, no aftercare, didn't learn any skills, I totally was dependent on the medication. And guess what happened? I still had anxiety and depression, I still had ADHD, I still had self-esteem issues, and I still wasn't okay, so like on top of the medication, next thing you know, like I'm drinking and I'm smoking. So like medication is super helpful, and some people have no chance in life without it. If you've ever seen like severe and persistent mental illness, like it's scary, it's very different than the average post-acute withdrawal syndrome. But my thing is always like, well, let me just keep it on me. What worked for me was that I got put on medication for the first 3 months to help manage and subside some of the most acute symptoms, so I could sleep and sit still and just like be present in treatment. And after 3 months, I actually tapered off my medicine. And I was on all non-narcotic medication. And what happened was I bought into 12-step, I started going to meetings, I was praying and meditating, I had a therapist, God bless you. I was going to the gym 3 days a week, I was on a sober softball team, I was hanging around positive people. And so the medication helped me get through the worst of it while I was building my actual network and learning skills that would help me in the long run. You know, it's like a combination of all these people have to come together. You know, clinical people, addiction people, community people, and when someone has willingness and you connect them with all these resources, like they can actually heal and they can actually get well. And then the professionals can actually decide, is this mental illness or is this post-acute withdrawal? And it requires to be in treatment, to be engaged, to be honest, to monitor your symptoms.